Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. Yes, I am finally back from vacation, but let's not waste any time. It's Billboard Breakdown. Because this is what I wanted to deal with in my first few days back from vacation. A double album bomb from records that I had no reason to expect were anything close to good or interesting. Just goddamn perfect. And of course, there are more news stories beyond that, but at this point, if I want to keep this episode at a sane length for the 20 new arrivals that we have this week, we're gonna have to keep it moving pretty quick. So okay, top 10. And the other big unfortunate story of the week, Look What You Made Me Do by Taylor Swift blew past all of her opposition to seize #1 on monster sales, huge YouTube, and even picking up some streaming there. Now, there is an open question how long it will last in the latter category, but with radio picking up big, I doubt she'll have any reason to care one way or the other. She's gonna be at #1 for some time. And it was all enough to unseat Despacito by Luis Fonsi, Daddy Yankee featuring Justin Bieber down to #2, tying the record with One Sweet Day but not beating it. And by the looks of its losses and everything except sales, it's not gonna be going back to the top anytime soon. Now, what could be a contender is Bodak Yellow by Cardi B, which held up at #3, thanks to huge streaming and respectable radio. But unless those sales pick up a fair bit, I'm not sure I can see it getting any higher. And while that was an issue for Wild Thoughts by DJ Khaled featuring Rihanna and Bryson Tiller for a while now, it's got bigger problems down to #4, bleeding hard on all fronts and potentially starting down out of the top 10 pretty soon. Hell, while Attention by Charlie Puth is holding at #5 thanks to okay sales and great radio, it might just have a little bit more longevity going forward, and part of this because Believer by Imagine Dragons, given that its radio seemed to peak and it had a rough week across the board, I can see this falling beyond #6. And yet, Unforgettable by French Montana featuring Sway Lee fell down to #7, as it too is bleeding in all categories. And yet somehow it stayed above There's Nothing Holding Me Back by Shawn Mendes at #8, which makes up for holding onto the top spot in radio and okay sales with absolutely atrocious streaming. And then we've got a new arrival in the top 10 at #9, built mostly off of sales gains from the VMAs, despite the radio not having any clue what to really do with the song. 1-800-273-8255 by Logic featuring Alessia Cara and Khalid. I gotta be honest, it's kind of weird seeing Logic in the top 10 right now, given how I've watched his career progress for years. And while I'm kind of exasperated it's a song from by far his weakest album, this isn't a bad tune. I don't hate it the same way some people do. And yet, following right behind it, also cracking the top 10 for the first time, Strip That Down by Liam Payne featuring Quavo. And look, I'll repeat what I said when I reviewed this song months ago. I don't mind this at all. It does kind of bother me that it and a few other post-One Direction songs are likely going to hit the year-end list for 2017, where Sign of the Times by Harry Styles won't. But hey, I can't argue with good radio and sales. And on that topic, are losers and dropouts. A lot of considerable ones this week. It's what happens when you get, again, 20 new arrivals, and we're gonna get to those. So let's blow through the ones that actually matter. Now or Never by Halsey is out. Every Day We Lit by Wyeth and Lukey featuring PNB Rock. Drownin' by A Boogie with the Hoodie featuring Kodak Black. To You by David Guetta featuring Justin Bieber. Rather premature there. You Look Good by Lainey Antebellum. Flatliner by Cole Swindle featuring Dierks Bentley, finally. And making graceful exit and enough to be landing on that year-end list, Castle on the Hill by Ed Sheeran. But as you expect on weeks with album bombs, you have lots of big losers too, with the most notable coming from BED by Jacques Keys losing all of its gains to 86, and Friends by Justin Bieber and Blood Pop falling hard to 33 off that debut. Beyond that, it was not exactly a great week for country music, as Drinkin' Problem by Midland fell down to 66, Do I Make You Wanna by Billy Currington went to 78, My Girl by Dylan Scott fell down to 88, and It Ain't My Fault by Brothers Osborne crashed down to 100. I have faith that some of these will revive, but unfortunately, in the latter case, not enough. Beyond that, the biggest loser was, sadly, Versace on the Floor by Bruno Mars at 71. But the losses really struck wider than that. Whatever You Need by Meek Mill featuring Chris Brown and Ty Dolla $ign at 74. Love by Kendrick Lamar featuring Zacari to 85. The amazing thing that this song has lasted as long as it has. Most Girls by Haley Steinfeld to 87. And Wish I Knew You by The Revivalists to 96. Finally, we got the continued hype evaporation for the Race by TK, which hit 64, and I can only imagine it will be gone soon enough. Now, as you all probably expect from our list of gains, it's pretty sparse, and I've already talked about the surges for Logic and Taylor Swift, but we do have 3 other pickups here. Thanks to a sales boost, Thunder by Imagine Dragons surged up to 45. It's been all over the charts it's run. Transportin' by Kodak Black got more streaming than anybody wanted, up to 55. Again, the production and flow is the only thing worth liking about that song. And Havana by Camila Cabello featuring Young Thug went up to 83 because, again, this is a hit song in the making. I can admit that despite not really liking Camila Cabello. I would put money on this song doing well, but what caught my interest were the 2 returning entries. Okay, not really much my interest, as you can effectively call for both of these, with Swish Swish by Katy Perry featuring Nicki Minaj surging back to 47 because of the video, and Down by Fifth Harmony featuring Gucci Mane back to 99 because the album dropped and nothing else crossed over. So okay, word of advice here. Drop Down as a single, it's not good. Put Sauced Up for promotion next, harmonies on that song, and with today's radio, I can see a considerable chance it might actually cross over and have some staying power. And yet instead, we got a nightmarish week full of garbage that I really did not want to cover, but thankfully it starts out kind of promising with number 97, Tell Me You Love Me by Demi Lovato.
I need someone on days like this, I do. On days like this, oh, can you hear my heart say? No, you ain't nobody till you got somebody. You ain't nobody till you got somebody.
Man, the rollout to this next Demi Lovato project has been kind of deflating for me, let me tell you. Especially because instead of pivoting towards pop rock or something that could benefit from her edge and her voice, she's opting for a brand of overly synthesized soul and gospel that feels blocky, completely lacking in groove or real soul, and it's not remotely flattering for her voice. This song, prime example. Yeah, those drums have some impact. I like the guitar and bass in the verses. I think those horns could have worked properly if the tinny percussion accents didn't drown out any actual texture for the horn pickup, which also feels like it's the case for the multi-tracking on Demi's vocals, which makes her sound a lot more nasal than she really should. But it's the lyrics that ring as the most hollow for me. I get expressing vulnerability, but listening to Demi Lovato saying you ain't nobody until you got somebody feels like a massive step backwards from her, from the woman who put together Cool for the Summer and especially Confident just 2 years ago. I get that it's an apology song, but it goes way overboard and doesn't remotely flatter her pipes. And considering that this was the song I was hoping would save this week, oh dear God. Number 95, Carry On by XXXTentacion.
And sled, bitch, I'm hoping you fucking rest in peace. Now the fact that I'm alone is fucking comforting, and I can't seem to shake this fucking feeling in my
Are we seriously doing this? Look, I'm no big fan of emo as it is, and I know when it's done well, and this, it's not done well at all. Most of the song is anchored to a lo-fi sample from Shiloh Dynasty before we get a blocky tap layered on top, with X's voice fading in and out as he tries to half-heartedly refute a false accusation, but the guitar work feels really amateurish, the vocal fade in and out feels really clunky from a production standpoint, and the poetry just feels dry and bland. It's not even obnoxiously bad, it just feels unfinished. And that's not a good sign. Number 94, Save Me by XXXTentacion. Okay, seriously, who tuned that piano or the guitar? The kick drum might sound fine, but any actual melody feels incredibly discordant here, and not in a way that's all that appealing, especially when X decides to hoarsely moan over some dark side that feels painfully forced and underwritten. I guess if I can kind of squint to it, I might maybe see a parallel to some tones on the more experimental side of emo, but they at least tended to resolve themselves for some actual major or minor chords, and didn't feel as sloppy as this does. Again, it's not a good sign for the rest of this project. I'm starting to think I made the right decision ignoring the hell out of this album. Number 92, Dark Queen by Lil Uzi Vert.
out here getting commas. Like my dad, I'm a grinder. She don't want me locked up. Mama, I'm gon' wash up. Whip my wrist, it lock up. All my diamonds rocked up. I don't wanna sign up.
Okay, so the first Lil Uzi Vert song we get is an auto-tune croon to his mother with dreary whistling synth in your by the numbers trap beat. And my god, I can't stand this guy's voice. It just triggers the worst possible reaction from me. At least Travis Scott and Kid Cudi have some bass in their voice. They can roughly stay on topic or tune. Whereas Lil Uzi Vert's tribute to his mother ventures off into him shooting people in the second verse. And you think for as much as his mom wanted to keep him out of jail, he wouldn't brag about shooting first. Or by that matter, the diamond flexing that he just needs to tack on to the end of the chorus. Look, I got a lot more of this guy to get through beyond just this junky song. But before we get to the avalanche of all that, number 91, Depression and Obsession by XXXTentacion.
I'm poison, and my body don't feel
Okay, wasn't expecting this. And look, I know some of the root appeal behind emo is that it's got a certain homegrown sloppiness that surely has to come with the amateurish strumming and the too clean vocal layering, but beyond the equation of depression and obsession, none of this idea feels developed beyond a fragment of a repeated chorus and a guitar loop. Again, there could have been something here that could have worked, but it definitely needs more than what this actually is. In other words, it's just kind of forgettable and ultimately disposable. Next, number 90, No Sleep Leak by Lil Uzi Vert. Okay, my immediate impression is that when I saw the title of the song is that Lil Uzi Vert was bragging about not wetting the bed, but can you honestly say that this is much better here? Lil Uzi Vert squawking through a song with barely any backing melody and a blocky trap beat, all about how he drives faster than his Ferrari, with the central idea being that he was broke, and now he's celebrating because he's not. Problem comes in not getting any details about that past life when he was broke, so there's nothing really to celebrate. The majority of the lyrics focusing on disposable luxury porn against a beat that's not even remotely celebratory, and not being remotely sympathetic because, again, the second line is your hook about him, Lil Uzi Vert, screwing your girl. At least XXXTentacion can hit a modestly interesting idea by accident, whereas this, sorry, it's just grating. Number 84, UnFazed by Lil Uzi Vert featuring The Weeknd. Oh, thank God, someone here who actually has talent. Almost to the point of making this song more of The Weeknd's than Lil Uzi Vert's. I mean, seriously, The Weeknd's got the boring hook and the crooning verse where he's turning this girl into a ratchet distraction against an appropriately eerie piano line. And then Lil Uzi Vert shows up for a verse that can't tilt into any of the darkness effectively beyond just dumping the girl for being so fake. Yeah, as if this is authentic hip-hop in any way, shape, or form. Again, the production here, it's not bad. I like the rougher trap vibe of the song, but this is something The Weeknd could pull off in his sleep, and it's not a better cut from him. And considering that he's just putting in time here as Lil Uzi Vert just makes it worse all around, yeah, no, pass. Number 82, For Real by Lil Uzi Vert.
Yeah, that's for real, for real, for real. You know I kept it for real. Walk around with it for real. You wanna bet it, my money for real, for real, for real. All of my diamonds for real. Different color like Pharrell's. Yeah, that's for real, for real, for real.
Okay, you know what? Points for some weird, oily minimalism, at least before the bass just swamps out the entire mix, and for Lil Uzi Vert sounding marginally less obnoxious with a lower vocal tone. But do I need to watch him hashtag brag rap and somehow still rhyme words of themselves through an entire song? Where the most interesting line is about how he forgot to close a door? Again, of the Lil Uzi Vert songs I've heard thus far, this is at least kind of tolerable, but I don't think you can pay me to revisit this song, or say it's all that good. Or interesting. Number 81, X by Lil Uzi Vert.
I don't want my ex, no. Break up with a text. I'm not trying to flex. What? Girl, you know the rest. Bye-bye. Bitch, I got a check.
So apparently Lil Uzi Vert is so bankrupt of ideas, he has to take not only the name of a 21 Savage song, but also the short nickname of the other artist that I have to cover en masse this week. Just dandy. Now, okay, let me state this right now. The faded whistle tone behind the song could have salvaged this melody here. It's not a bad vibe against the rougher trap. It's not bad production. The problem is, once again, Lil Uzi Vert, who's completely incapable of holding a coherent thought, and it utterly cripples any emotional impact from a song where he doesn't want his ex, but he wants the audience to feel sorry for him despite him breaking up with this girl through text, even though that he's now got a new chick who he describes as new and has an ass like a zebra on a zoo. Oh, and he's like Leonardo DiCaprio and he's totally gonna bag your girl while he's flossing. Yeah, okay, no, pass. Number 82 by Lil Uzi Vert. Okay, I'm starting to find it mildly exasperating how Lil Uzi Vert completely messes up otherwise interesting production by being a mumble-mouthed and generally incoherent annoyance on song after song. Because again, I kinda like this beat. I like that it anchors itself in a drippy cascaded piano playing off what sounds like an accordion. You don't hear that often in trap vibes. But the problem here is that Lil Uzi Vert has to try to use his crooning as an excuse for not staying on the beat. And when it's this slow, that's kind of inexcusable. His second verse is mildly better, but in terms of flow, as he spends time checking his watch for his current targeted girl being a minor, which has some Taiga implications I really don't like, and then where your girl is then giving him a head, was somehow even less clever to some of the punchlines than usual. Okay, moving on. Number 79, Neon Guts by Lil Uzi Vert featuring Pharrell.
And I got a colorful aura, like I got neon guts. Admitted I move like amoeba. Yeah, I float in the room like I'm reefer. Yeah, alien, I'm not your kind of people. Yeah. Telepathic fan, watch how I read you.
You know, I would say that I'm disappointed that Pharrell decided to hop on a track with Lil Uzi Vert. But you know what, to his credit, it seems like his presence inspired him to step up his game a little bit in terms of bars. Now granted, Pharrell's level of smoothness against the sharper hi-hat and the watery tinkles that immediately makes him the most interesting part of the song, and it helps that he actually has real charisma. But you know what, you strip the auto-tune off of Lil Uzi Vert, he can actually be a little bit more expressive in a 2 Chainz sort of way, with a series of color references that actually show a bit of creativity. And sure, it's all empty flexing and bragging, but for once, nobody's actually referencing Taking My Girl, so I'm actually willing to give this something of a pass. So yeah, it's not bad. I'll take this. Number 77, Revenge by XXXTentacion.
Some break your heart, and you thought that I would let it go and let you walk. But broken hearts break bones, some break up fast, and I don't wanna let it go. So in my grave I ride.
Okay, here's the thing about acoustic emo songs. There's normally a tone and balance to the guitar work that implies some sort of moodiness or edge, not a half-assembled piece from your average bad white guy with acoustic guitar indie campfire song, where the sloppy multi-tracking and delivery almost reminded me of something that Mark Kozlik would do if he lost 80 IQ points and huffed paint for 6 hours. And yeah, for a semi-psychotic revenge track infused with self-loathing, it's got a fragment of the instability it needs to work, but it never has intensity and just dies after 2 minutes. I mean, come on here. At this point, it just barely feels painfully lazy, on the cusp of actually hitting something with potency and then just completely falling short. Can we at least get something with some firepower on this song? Number 76, Light It Up by Luke Bryan.
I check it, I feel the buzz in my truck and I almost wreck it. I always got it on me, just in case you want me. So if you're looking for my love, then light it up.
Okay, look, I might go on about how trap beats are overused in hip-hop and really pop these days, but it gets significantly worse when they start crossing over to country music. And really, given Luke Bryan's production team, it was only a matter of time, but here it's barely done half well, especially as you can tell that his drummer was trying to mix in a more synthetic hi-hat sound with real cymbals, which are of course louder than the 4 bars of guitar solo we get playing off the distant piano. But to be fair to Luke Bryan, he at least appears to have ironed out some of the muddiness that really crippled his his last album, Kill the Lights, and even though this feels like the furthest thing from country, I mean, I've heard pop, R&B, and even hip-hop with more organic texture to it. So let's basically go to the content, which is Luke Bryan lusting away from the other side of his phone. And honestly, I'm a little bit torn on this subject matter because while it is reflective of how many people hook up these days, it's not a bad thing to explore that emotional dynamic. Luke Bryan plays it really desperate and clingy, which doesn't really fit his delivery. It sure as hell is not flattering for him. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't terrible per se, and Luke Bryan has certainly made worse songs, but it feels like the sort of experiment that would be a better fit for a younger artist like Thomas Rhett or Sam Hunt. It just makes Luke Bryan, who is over 40 now, playing in really awkward territory. And this is his lead-off single? Yeah, not good. Number 73, What Lovers Do by Maroon 5 featuring SZA. Okay, one more breath of respite before XXXTentacion and Lil Uzi Vert take over the rest of the week, and we're continuing with Maroon 5's blatant pop cello collaborations, this time bringing SZA on board. Okay, in principle this could be interesting, and you know, if you completely forget that everything else that Maroon 5 has ever done in the past, this isn't a bad song. The tight tropical bounce of the bass plays off the weedier fragments of guitars, and Adam Levine doesn't exactly have bad chemistry with SZA, who seems to have a certain organic playfulness that really fits the bounce of the song. I actually like her on this beat a lot. Actually, I wouldn't mind hearing a remix of the song with just her on it because Adam Levine is just way too stiff, especially for a song that's supposed to have some real groove to it and where he's just not bringing the intensity. So yeah, on most weeks I would not really praise this all that much, but on this week, you know what? I'll take it. Not half bad. Number 60, 444 plus 222 by Lil Uzi Vert.
Breathe in, breathe out, shake that ass, speed up, go fast, slow down. Million on me, Jay-Z, count off, fun nigga, pay me.
I'll be honest, I thought this was an XXXTentacion song when I saw the title because it seemed exactly like the sort of basic edgelord crap that he'd tried. Instead, we're getting it from Lil Uzi Vert, which if anything makes it even feel worse, where he's trying to clap back at Jay-Z of all people and can't muster anything close to that intensity or a decent punchline beyond screwing your girl, who he describes as a rock star like Lord, which showcases another person along with the Grammys who doesn't understand what rock music is. Now from there he tries to pant his way through an incredibly staccato and awkward set of choruses and verses. I won't dignify this by calling it a flow, but what throws me more is the ugly, tuneless production behind the verse that you can barely hear behind the trap beat, where his own voice drops out behind multiple layers. Is this supposed to sound intimidating or hard, or are we just supposed to be dealing with another tonal mess again? Either way, Jay-Z's got more talent in one couplet on any album than Lil Uzi Vert has his entire career. So let's not dignify this as a song and move on. Number 54, Everybody Dies in Their Nightmares by XXXTentacion.
Nigga really wanna die in the nighttime. Only time I feel pain when I'm feeling love. That's why I said it on my face that I'm down on. Only time you come on my mind when I'm all alone. That's why I'm never really alone in the nighttime.
So I've heard some people make the whole punk comparison with X's incredibly short songs. This one is barely 90 seconds and it samples Shiloh Dynasty again for any sort of melody with that wispy delivery as X hammers the same line to the ground. Problem is that said punk songs in the hardcore vein often brought intensity or a lyric that really truly cuts, and X has neither here. There's a flat, monotonous flow that doesn't adequately convey a nightmarish reason not to go to sleep. Again, there could have been something here with another verse, maybe a tonal switch up, maybe a little bit more development in the song. But as it is, no. I get nothing from it. Number 49, Sauce It Up by Lil Uzi Vert.
Where you from? Throw it out. Going nuts. Yeah, going down. Sauce it down. Sauce it up. Do too much. Ain't enough. Ain't enough. Where you from? Throw it out. Going nuts. Yeah, going down.
Okay, no, the song that I wanted was Sauced Up, and it is from Fifth Harmony, not you, Lil Uzi Vert. Now, both songs, they actually have the same idea, hard partying and brash ego. But where Fifth Harmony actually had vocal harmonies and a pretty good melody and a really good hook, Lil Uzi Vert has greasy, glassy synthesizers against a weightless trap skitter, has him bragging about talking with Playboy Cardi, owning blood diamonds, and having his girl both wet like a squirtle and walking around pigeon-toed like they got the bird flu. So when we get the painfully grating muted autotune of Lil Uzi Vert shouting about how awesome he is against an ugly tune, I just can't get into this. I don't see how anyone can get into this. In other words, it blows. Let's move on. Number 41. Fuck Love by XXXTentacion featuring Trippie Redd. Okay, what is up with all these rappers getting these atonal synths and thinking that it would sound remotely good with their autotune trying so desperately to keep them on key? Because while Trippie Redd might bring more appropriate personality that might fit the vibe of the song more than X's moaning about gunfire in his head, none of it remotely sounds good, even if there is a little bit more texture to this trap beat. And again, we get a fragment of a verse with a fragment of a hook. If this is what people actually paid money for this, that's utterly beyond me at this point. Number 39, The Way Life Goes by Lil Uzi Vert.
You'll find another life to live. I swear that you'll get over it. But I know you're sad and tired. You got nothing left to give. You'll find another life to live. I know that you'll get over it.
Okay, you know what? I'll be honest. Maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome setting in, but this song is more perplexing than outright awful. The quick oscillation of the synth does a little bit more behind the trap beat, and the very literal interpolation of Oh Wonder's Landslide at least gives this song a decent hook, as Lil Uzi Vert mused about his ex yet again, and how he took her from a broke guy that apparently she might have gone back to, and you know what, for a fraction of a second, we actually get a shred of insight, one line, as he realizes all his flossing is not going to be winning that ex back. Of course, you can tell with all the brand name porn in the song, he's clearly using those brand names to get this new girl, and you tell that his hook is clearly directed at himself so he can measure himself and get over this previous girl in the past, so he hasn't really learned much at all. But you know what? The seed is there. I will take what I can get. It's still not really a good song, but you know what? If this is the fan favorite of the album, I get why it charted this high. I get why people like it. And finally, number 31, Jocelyn Flores by XXXTentacion. Okay, so this is the sort of thing that this brand of emo rap is built for. The ode to the girl that X used to hang with committing suicide. The existential pain of knowing you couldn't have done anything, and at the end you just feel kind of numb to all of it. And it's not a good sign that most of my description of this song is exactly word for word what X says on the song. Yes, another lazy Shiloh Dynasty sample for another fragmented piece where the guitar tuning sounds out even worse against the unrefined clunk of the beat. And sure, there is something to having no real artistry about this sort of grief. But where someone like Mount Erie and Phil Alvira managed to sidestep it with real poetry and challenging subject matter, X is so painfully basic, and it barely even references the girl the song is titled after, just more using her as a prop for more of X's self-absorbed depression. And yeah, there is an audience for all of this, and some meat to the bones here. If you added something, as it is, just feels unfinished. And in that spirit, I think I'm done with this week. Best is What Lovers Do by Maroon 5 and SZA. She basically saved this song in this entire week. And all the mentions, Neon Guts by Lil Uzi Vert featuring Pharrell. Yeah, I'm probably as surprised as you are. It's not bad. But Lil Uzi Vert is not getting off easy, as he gets both bottom slots, with Sauce It Up as the worst of the week, and 444 plus 222 is the dishonorable mention. If you're gonna go at GZ again, have the dignity to come correct next time, for God's sake. Thankfully, I cannot see a lot of this sticking around, so next week we will deal with the fallout of all this. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.